Hey cousins, welcome to Brown Liquor and Bad Ideas.
Welcome, cousins, to this episode of Brown Liquor and Bad Idea. I'm your host, Cornell Wright, the People's Lobbyist. Join me and let's talk about Trump versus America. Now, cousins, if you've been watching this show for a while, you know that my whole intention is to bring us together. And with that, the preamble of the Constitution is kind of our guiding North Star on what we're trying to do and how we view the United States and our role in the world. So let me just review for you the preamble of the Constitution. And that says, "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." Now, cousins, every political office in the United States, all the federal offices, they swear on the Bible to uphold the standards of the Constitution, of which this preamble is the beginning part of it. You with me, cousins? Everybody. The president, vice president, all the Congress, all the representatives, etc. That is supposed to be the overriding, singular purpose of these people, is to support the Constitution and go about doing their business in a way that supports that, which is what? We the people. Or for this show, we the cousins. You with me, cousins? So, cousins, let's take a quick review of some of the things that the former president has done that we know and is currently doing. We know that there was an attempted theft of the 2020 presidential election by the former president. He had calls to state representatives and legislatures asking them to find more votes. He had calls to state legislators asking them to ignore the voting that had been done by members of all the cousins in their states and to turn that over to his advantage. There was over 50 lawsuits around the country, some of them felonious or not worthwhile, in which the courts eventually struck down almost immediately, even going up to as high as the Supreme Court, talking about how the vote was being stolen. The Attorney General of his own selection and choice said that it was the cleanest and best election that had ever been run in the United States, and he in fact lost. No other Republican candidate, who got elected in 2020 said there was anything wrong with their election. So he was the only person complaining about the results of the outcome of the election. And then there's other tactics, I'm sure, cousins, we still have to discover. All right? This is what we know, cousins. All right? So that was not acting in line with what the Constitution, which he swore an oath to when he was inaugurated, to uphold. The second part, cousins, this is the one that really goes crazy. As we've talked on this show, as well as you can't pass the news unless you listen to some channels that ignore it, the whole January 6th violent attempt to take over, it's called a coup. When we talk about third world nations, it's called a coup, of taking over the Capitol, all right? In which now, as you're starting to find out, more and more cousins, there's been more cousins who have been indicted, imprisoned, people died as a result of that. He actually gave a speech telling people, let's go do it, all right? Cousins, we watched that on TV with our own eyes. And now people are trying to gaslight us, cousins, and pretend like that wasn't such a big thing. Well, tell me, cousins, what would have happened if, in fact, Vice President Pence had got in that car and left? What would have happened if those state rolls that came in that were falsified had actually gotten put in under all of the excitement, and so that when people came back and looked at it, the rolls were changed from what the cousins in those states had actually voted for? What would have happened if that mob of violent insurrectionists had gotten to the other members of Congress? Talking about kill people who are part of our congressional peace. What would have happened, cousins? You think that was just fun? When you watch that on TV, did you see people saying, oh, this is a picnic and we're just playing a game here, so let me just kind of exit out of the chamber and go find somewhere? No, cousins, that was a serious, serious situation. If we had seen that same situation play out anywhere else in the world, we would have said what? A violent coup. So let's call it what it is, cousin. It looks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. That was a coup, led by the former president of the United States, which in my mind makes him treasonous, because he did not live up to his constitutional responsibilities of being president of the United States. Come on, cousins, how else are you going to cut that? I don't care whether you like the man or not like the man. What's more important, the Constitution or the man? So, you think about it, cousins. If you had lived up to the Constitution in regards to your office, those things would have never happened. You would have never done that, because the Constitution and upholding it and doing all the things for the position was supposed to be paramount in his mind. It's also supposed to be paramount in the minds of the other congressional people who are now in the process of some of them supporting him, which I don't, quote, totally understand. All right? So think about this, cousins. So now the former president is endorsing candidates around the country. All right? Endorsing candidates. So think about this, cousins. In April, at one of his many rallies, he actually said that the Republican Party ought to be afraid of him if they are not in line with what his thinking is. Now, cousins, how is that not a coup for the Republican Party? He's taken over the Republican Party. That's why I titled this Trump versus America, because there are a lot of Republicans who don't agree with that. I got my hand raised. I still believe in the United States of America, not the former president. I still believe in the Constitution with all of its flaws and things that needs to be fixed with it, as opposed to somebody who obviously seems to be in this whole thing for himself. Because I can't see where he's done too much to help anybody else that's not necessarily in his clique, or someone who hasn't, quote unquote, as we know from talking to, from the Mueller report, the former FBI agent, director, needing to swear allegiance to the man, not to the Constitution of the United States. Cousins, let's think about that for a second. Additionally, cousins, there have been numerous reports of Republican congressional leaders who have said that, gee, they really wish the guy would go away. They really wish he would stop having so much impact. They really wish he would stop, having the rallies. They really wish he'd stop saying things that are incorrect, like the vote was being stolen. And by the way, promoting policies that, if you really go back and look at the record, do those policies really work, cousins? No. And they talk about, oh, well, there was less inflation. Well, yeah. Okay. Why, cousins? Because at one point in time, we shut down for 2019. But tell me, cousins, how do you think it was managed for the whole COVID-19 thing while he was president, of which he was not denying it existed? And cousins, think about this. Think about this for just a second. At one point in time, during the height of COVID, we had over thousands of cousins in the United States dying every week. So when you think about decision-making and being the executive, every week that was lost, every week that was indecisive, every week that was put off for whatever reasons, denied as it being real, caused cousins' lives. That has to be put on the executive in charge, right? The buck stops here. Has this man taken any responsibility for any of that over the period of time? No, cousins, he hasn't. And so this is a leader? I don't think so. Not the one we need for America in the 21st century. There are other capable Republican candidates who are out there promoting ideas and concepts, which are perhaps a little more in line, more back towards center with some of Republican values and interests, which you can see and touch have better interests for the United States as a part of it, as opposed to someone who's threatening his own party. Cousins, if you're threatening people, that to me sounds like a bully. Did you ever really care about bullies? Come on, cousins, you know the answer to that. Okay? So here's one for you. I saw a political ad for a candidate. And this political ad for a candidate said that this candidate was pro-God, pro-guns, pro-Trump. Cousins, help me on this. Yes, I'm a God-fearing person. Yes, I like guns. Yes, I also understand that guns have some issues, whatever, but that's another topic for another conversation, okay? And so saying Trump, does that buy into everything that he's done with all the exposures that we're all aware of? So that means this want more of the same in that regard, cousins? So that's why I'm kind of get this United States versus Trump. It's Trump versus America, cousins. And so as you start looking at it and you think about, keep these things in mind when you go to the ballot box. What does this person know? What does this person say? Is that the power that you want to give one man in a land of democracy, in which the majority rules and what's good for the most people is what's good, and the Constitution and the preamble? Think about that, cousins. Isn't that where we really are? Or are we in the middle of trying to make some other decisions about leadership? If you decided you want an autocracy and you want a dictator, well, fine, that's one direction. But I'm standing by the Constitution, I'm standing by democracy and giving us, we the people, the right to vote. Because guess what, cousins? If you still have the right to vote, notice the operative words, if you still have the right to vote, you have the power. You with me, cousins? If you have the right to vote, you have the power. You can make the decision to go a different way that's to the benefit of what? More cousins in the United States as opposed to one person. You with me, cousins? All right. So think about that. I know that's contrary to what a lot of you have been hearing over time, maybe in what you believe. But you look at my words, and I think you'll see the sincere and honesty, and go back to the preamble of the Constitution and see what is making that more real for you and your world. With me, cousins? Because it comes in packages, cousins. It comes in packages. I can't like one aspect and not take all the other things that go with it. All right, cousins, you take care of yourself. We'll see you next time on Brown Liquor and Bad Ideas.
We are the people. We are the people.
Brown Liquor and Bad Ideas is intended for the participation of responsible adults of legal drinking age who wish to engage in substantive virtual discussions and social drinking for entertainment purposes only. Brown Liquor and Bad Ideas does not advocate the abuse of alcoholic beverages. Choosing to participate in any of the drinking activities shared in the program should be made with moderation and caution and is the sole responsibility of the user.